Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Today we're going to be looking at the last updated hero from Heavy Hitters, Bravo Showstopper. Bravo didn't receive too much support, but he never really does. The last time he received some specific support was when we got Starstruck, which definitely helped him and is a card that we still see today because of how good it is. But Heavy Hitters didn't give him anything specifically, and none of it really helped him all too much. You could still play the same old Bravo, bringing your standard blues and such, but you could also play some of the new tools, like this deck does, to get a little more advantage. With all that said, let's get started. If you don't know, Bravo's hero ability is to pay 2 resource to give all of your attack actions with 3 or more cost dominate. This means that you can land those crush effects a lot easier, make sure your opponent use equipment or have D reacts in their arsenal to stop the disruption. This can be a really good tool to also end a game, because if your opponent's just top decking their top 4 and they have very low equipment, you can easily hit them with a big dominate if you repeatedly keep threatening their life total and making them block. Bravo's main weapon is a Nothos. We do play another weapon, but this will be what you'll be bringing in a lot of the time, just because it's a standard 3 for 4, and if we have enough stuff in our pitch of cost 3, it gets +2. The other equipment is also pretty standard. You'll remember these from our Victor video. Crown of Providence, Fyendal Spring Tunic, Gauntlets of Iron Will, and Civic Steps are just the standard Guardian loadout for now. If you wanted to, you could play Tectonic Plating instead of the Fyendal Spring Tunic, but personally I find Tunic a lot better. Moving on to the main board, you'll notice we only have 4 reds. 3 Chokeslam, 3 Crippling Crush, 3 Debilitate, and 3 Spinal Crush. I said 4 reds, but I meant 4 different reds. We have 12 reds. Chokeslam and Debilitate are here in their red and blue versions, just because they're good for cost disruptive effects. Debilitate is theoretically a 4 for 10 if they don't stop the crush, which is really nice. And Chokeslam is also kind of that because their attacks can't gain power. So they're both higher damage theoretically than the damage they actually deal. Crippling Crush is your premier disruptive effect, making your opponent discard 2 random cards if you hit them for at least 4. And Spinal Crush removes their Go Again, something that'll be very strong going into the next set as well, since I assume we'll see a lot more Go Again. As well as into the meta right now, Katsu's very strong. This card is one of the reasons why your Ninja matchup is so favored as Guardian, because you can easily disrupt them every turn when it's hard for them to block. Spinal's a little worse though, because it's easier to defend against. 2-3 blocks can stop it, but generally if they're putting 2-3 blocks in front, they're not going to have that wide of a turn anyway, so Spinal is pretty good. The only yellow in the deck is Starstruck. We already talked about this a little bit before, but I will still go over it. It has a crush effect to make the hero you hit only able to play attacks with base power greater than the damage dealt. So if you do 4, they can only play 5s or more. In most matchups, the sweet number is 6, because if you hit them for 6, they can't play CNC against you, and generally that's the highest thing most decks play. So Starstruck can have that insane disruptive effect, especially if you dominate this turn 1. Yes, you don't get an arsenal, but you just stop your opponent's whole turn right away. It also has a unity effect, to where if it's defending with another card in your hand, you make a seismic search, and you can give it to your opponent, but I don't know why you would. Next, let's talk about the blues in the main board. We got a lot of blues, 39 of them. Let's just quickly go over them. Chokeslam, Debilitate, for reasons we already talked about. Boulder Drop is here because they have to respect it. Buckling Blow is here because it's a little extra damage, similar to the Debilitate and Chokeslam. Clash of Might and Clash of Vigor are here because we're playing a small Clash package. Even though these two don't directly work with your Nothos, you want to be blocking with them anyway, so that really doesn't matter because they're not going to be in your hand. Cranial Crush is a disruptive effect on draws, which draws are a little more important right now. Disables some Arsenal hate. Macho Grande is a just good dominate effect. Tear Asunder is a very strong disruption effect. Mainly will be used on Anothos. Thunderquake is just a bigger attack you can reveal off clashes. Thunk is a might on Clash Win, and Wallop is a Vigor on Clash Win. Next, let's take a look at our deck's sideboard, starting with the equipment. Titan's Fist is a weapon we'll bring in whenever we want any of our 2 offhands. Steelbraid Buckler will come in versus our aggro matchups to give us a little extra defense, and Arcane Lantern will come in versus our wizard matchups since we don't need the shield anyway, and Throwing Hammer is pretty bad in that matchup. The other equipment we have are Balance of Justice for matchups that would draw cards, and Null Rune Boots and Null Rune Gloves for other arcane matchups. Null Rune Gloves being our card of choice whenever we're going, or Null Rune Shoes, I'm sorry, being our AV of choice whenever we play against a Runeblade. Looking at the rest of our board, we have just a lot more reds. 3 CNC, this will come in pretty much every game. It's just here because it's not like a main Guardian thing. 3 E-Strike because it's also just a good card. This doesn't have to come in every matchup, but it's still a nice card to want to come in. Mainly in matchups we want to be a little more aggressive, we're going to bring in this E-Strike. Next I have 3 Fates and 3 Sigs just because they are our premier defensive options. Some good, really good D-Reacts that we'll want to be bringing in. I currently have 2 Pummels and 1 Unmovable. This can be any order of them. You can play, I wouldn't play 3 Unmovable, I would play at least 2 Pummel. This Unmovable can be a 3rd Pummel if you don't want Unmovable, which there are a few reasons why you wouldn't. And I think that's a fair point to say. If we get a higher aggro meta, Unmovable's a lot worse. But if we go back to like a Guardian meta, like we're kind of in a Guardian meta right now, Victor is very strong, you want Unmovable into that matchup. From the last clip, because these are different clips, you may have noticed I was on 1 more Unmovable and 2 more Rouse the Ancients. That was a problem on my part. I forgot to put CNC in. Oh well, CNC needs to be in the deck. That's my bad. But I do think that those 2 are choices you could play, and I do want to talk about them. Rouse the Ancients is a card that is another aggressive option. The only issue with it is it blocks 2, and it's a blue, and it's a 0 power. Obviously, Fates, Sinks, Pummels, Unmovable, all 0 power, whatever. You lose clashes off them, but it feels so bad to lose a clash off of Rouse the Ancients. So, they're a little worse. And then Zealous Belting could be good too, but Wallop and the clashes only have 5 and 4 power, so you're not going to be getting anything off of them. Also, this Boulder Drop does as well. So Zealous Belting's a little worse. E-Strike's the best offensive option. But, again, they were in the deck because I assumed I already put CNC in, and I didn't realize it during testing, which I had a different list to test that CNCs were in. I just forgot to add them in again when I made it for this video. So, my bad. But this is the sideboard you do want to be playing. This will be the sideboard in the video. Most matchups, you will be bringing in Command and Conquer, pretty much everyone. And then, in like every other matchup, you'll be bringing in the Fates, the Sinks, and the Pummels, and probably also the E-Strikes. The Unmovable can come in usually as well. Normally, you'll bring this whole sideboard in into a lot of matchups, but if you want to play like a lean amount, you'll play the CNCs and then some of the D-Reacts, or you'll just play the D-Reacts, or whatever. Normally, you'll go above 60 because it's Guardian, right? You can afford it. Your cards are so consistent and you just block so well that you can afford it. That's about it. This was a fast one. There's not really too much to talk about Bravo. The deck's been around since forever, so I hope you guys enjoyed. This button up here in February means that hopefully soon we have the entirety of the KO Armory deck to discuss, so hopefully next week that can be our video. If not, I don't know what we're going to do. Some other deck list, I suppose. We do know what she is, though. So if we don't do the KO Armory deck, I suppose we could do the Part the Mistveil, take a look at the heroes, and all of the instants, because now we can do an actual theory craft like we do for each other's set. So with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.